Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our regular meeting scheduled March 14, 2022. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, all of you council members have had a chance to review your agenda for tonight. I will entertain any motions to approve that agenda.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Schlueter. Mr. Sullivan, thank you.
Mayor Kirby, before we vote on that, I would like to move one item from the consent agenda. The personnel action under 5I, the community development director.
And Mr. Mayor, on my part, I'd like to pull off the police chief personal action as well to discuss that.
What number is that one?
Well, it's part of the same thing of the.
Oh, right down here.
5I.
Personal. Got it. Okay. We'll just cover all of 5I. We'll pull that off. So with your motion, Mr. Swanberg, would be you'll approve the agenda with the exception of item agenda 5I, personnel action.
We could do it that way.
Moving that to the regular agenda.
Move it
Move it to the regular agenda. Thank you. With that said, any other discussion, comments, concerns? With that said, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to presentation, we will begin tonight with the police swearing in. At this time, I will introduce our chief, Mr. Tiki. Welcome tonight.
Thank you. So when I took over as chief just 2 weeks ago, we are also in the process of adopting a new policy called Lexipol. And part of that policy, when we update it, it requires our officers to swear an oath upon hire. And for some of us, it's been many years since we've done that. And we just kind of would like to renew that oath. And we also have a couple new officers that have not taken an oath since they've been hired. So we want to take care of that tonight and get it out of the way. And we thought it would be nice to do it in a formal way and recognize some of these guys and get them in front of you so you can see who they are, so I can introduce them and talk about them a little bit. So yeah, we'll get going. So first, this is Sergeant Tony Boldsness.
Sergeant.
So this is Sergeant Tony Boldsness. He's been with the Sueur Police Department since 2017.
Yes.
Right? 2017. He started as a part-time officer. About 2 years later, retired full-time.
Yeah, I started in 2014 part-time and full-time in 17. Yes.
He was promoted to sergeant in June
Mhm.
of this last year. So Tony does all of our scheduling. He specializes in our use of force training. He supervises the patrol officers in the evening hours and works 2 to 2 typically is his shift. So yeah, that's Tony. Anything else you want to add, Tony?
I don't think so.
All right.
Thank you.
So go ahead and raise your right arm, Tony, and repeat after me. I, Sergeant Anthony Boldsness,
I, Sergeant Anthony Wolsness,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
within and for the city of Sueur
within and for the city of Sueur
and the state of Minnesota.
and the state of Minnesota. All right. Yeah.
All right, next we have Officer Josh Gladys. So this is Officer Gladys. Officer Gladys actually started part-time with Sueur, I think like way back in 2009, right? And full-time in 2013. So he replaced, I don't know if you guys remember Dennis Lubish. When Dennis retired, Josh was his replacement. So he's been with us for quite a while. Josh is our TZD, or Towards Zero Deaths Coordinator. So that's someone who works with federal grant money in the state of Minnesota to get us extra funds that allows us to put our officers on overtime that the state and feds pay for to do nothing but traffic safety, traffic enforcement, things like that. Put on programs at the school for student education when it comes to traffic safety. He also did a presentation at the park during Giant Days for seatbelt use and integrity up at the park. What else, Josh? Josh is up.
I do our field training,
Yeah, he's our FTO, so he trains our new hires. So, yeah.
a few other things here and there, whatever you needed me to do.
So this is Josh Gladys. Sorry, Josh. Raise your right arm for me. I, Officer Josh Gladys,
I, Officer Josh Gladys,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
within and for the city of Sueur
within and for the city of Sueur
and state of Minnesota.
and state of Minnesota.
All right, next item, we have Officer Evan Smith. So Officer Smith is our most senior officer. He has been full-time since 2007 and part-time since
2000.
2000. So he's been here for quite a while. Evan does our squad car fleet maintenance and inventory. And he also does background investigations when we hire prospective new employees, which is a pretty labor-intensive process when we have background new potential hires. All right. Evan, you want to raise your right hand? I, Officer Evan Smith,
I, Officer Evan Smith,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
within and for the city of Sueur
within and for the city of Sueur
and the state of Minnesota.
and the state of Minnesota.
Next, I have Officer Dan Wright. Dan has started part-time with us in 2015.
14.
2014, and full-time in 2018.
Yep.
When Greg Shalene retired, Dan replaced Greg Shalene. Dan is on the safety committee. He helps out with training when we have hired new officers.
Taser.
He is our taser instructor. We have to have a certified post instructor just specifically for tasers, so he does that. Yeah. You ready, Dan?
Yeah, I think so.
I, Officer Dan Wright,
I, Officer Dan Reich,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
and that I'll faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
within and for the city of Sueur
within and for the city of Sueur
and the state of Minnesota.
and the state of Minnesota.
The next one we have is Officer Jesus Science. Jesus has been with us since November of 2020. He was a Minneapolis police officer for 3 years. He left their ranks and joined ours. We were very fortunate to get such a great hire out of Jesus. He's bilingual, which is a huge asset to our department. Jesus has some pretty advanced skills when it comes to investigations. He's really good with our computer stuff and cell phone analysis and extracting that data. He's worked a couple pretty intense cases in the last year that involved a lot of that, which were really important cases that we had innocent victims that seriously need to be vindicated in those cases, and he did a tremendous job at that. So he's been a great asset in just this last 15 months that he's worked here, and we're happy, very happy he's here. He's doing a great job.
Thank you, thank you.
I, Officer Jesus Science,
I, Officer Jesus Science,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
within and for the city of Sueur
within and for the city of Sueur
and state of Minnesota.
and state of Minnesota. Thank you. Thank you.
And last, we have Officer Luke Friedstrom. So Luke has been full-time for about 3 months now. He's our newest addition to our full-time staff. He has worked part-time here for a little over 3 years before that. He's from the Northfield area, was an officer in Faribault for a little while, but came to greener pastures over here in the River Valley. So we're lucky to have him. He's getting settled in, getting used to his regular duties, and he's doing an excellent job. Officer Friedstrom, you want to raise your right hand? I, Officer Luke Friedstrom,
I, Officer Luke Friedstrom,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer
within and for the city of Sueur
within and for the city of Sueur
and state of Minnesota.
and state of Minnesota.
So council, these are all our full-time staff at our police department. We do also have another additional 5 officers that are part-time officers that work intermittently to fill in vacancies for vacations. And also we have a Saturday shift that they religiously fill in. It just helps with our coverage, helps us provide a double coverage or 2 officer coverage to the city as much as we can provide that. So we have 2 officers working at a time instead of 1. We try to avoid that as much as we can, but we have a really young and talented department and workforce, and we're lucky to have them. And we want to thank you for the opportunities you guys gave us and the appreciation you showed us in that last contract for these guys, which was great. If you want to grill them or have questions for them, fire away.
Well, on behalf of the council, I want to thank you, Chief Tiki, for bringing your staff in here tonight. And we want to thank you guys for all the work you do. And it's great to put faces with our officers, and it's nice to have continuity with our staff. So on behalf of the council, I'd like to thank you and applaud you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, sir. You don't have to go.
You guys have a safe
Thank
night out there. Thank you.
Will do, thanks.
Next presentation tonight will be on the Minnesota Council of Governments, and we have a couple of ladies here that'd like to visit with us about that. I'm sorry, your name?
My name is Sheila Huber.
Thank you, Sheila.
Oh, perfect. All right. So Mayor, members of the council, thank you for having us tonight. What we wanted to do is just kind of talk through a little bit and provide some information about what the Minnesota Valley Council of Governments is. Myself and Jessica Steinke, who's our program administrator for the program, have been working with the program for quite a many years, and just wanted to be able to kind of give some more information about what some services and things that we can provide. I am also the Director of Human Resources for the City of Mankato. The City of Mankato is actually the fiscal agent for the Minnesota Valley Council of Governments. So we usually tend to have a lot of different resources that we can kind of find and work with whenever possibly needed as well. So that's a key piece of that. So what are we? We're generally, our members call us the COG, Council of Governments for short. We are a voluntary organization that is currently made up of about 14 different local governments, and that's everything from counties to city jurisdictions. We are kind of established really to foster that kind of continued joint cooperation between all jurisdictions. It's full resources where we're all kind of one. We all work for governments, and that's everything from whether school districts or cities, counties. We're all still service providers for our citizens, and we just kind of all need to work together as a joint effort. And so what that does is that really kind of brings in, if you guys have something going on, my guess is there's probably another jurisdiction that has the same situation going on. And so it's really nice to be able to kind of feed off of that and really kind of build and help those resources. We aim to serve our members. Basically what we do is we adapt to our members' needs. Our members don't necessarily need to adapt to what the services we provide. Whatever services that you're looking for, that's where we kind of come in and help. Many times we don't necessarily have staffing levels to be able to work on big projects. That's where we can come in. We have that ability to work through those projects for you on your behalf. And not take the time away from your staff that, we're all busy and doing other things, and all of a sudden we know that projects come up. And that's where Jessica or myself are there to provide those different services. Our mission is to enhance the quality of city and county government by providing cost-effective administrative, human resources, planning, technical assistance to our member jurisdictions. We have been around since 1970. We originally were an area-wide planning organization. However, that was changed when Region 9 development was put into place, which at that point we reassessed our roles and responsibilities and really kind of shifted our service more towards what different jurisdictions and local government needs were at the time, and have continued to do and strive ever since. Our principals are cities, counties, school districts. Again, we're all one large community, and that's where we know we can kind of help out and be able to provide those different resources. We're bound economically and socially to each other in that regards. Communities are very much service more than one unit of local government, where it really is a kind of a joint effort throughout that. We do foster a cooperative environment where, again, where we go back to, it's just different resources. We get together on a quarterly basis. There's a lot of different, we have different topics at our meetings that we know that our communities are kind of going through similar situations, where we bring in speakers, we bring in other resources that we know that communities are really going to need different, kind of that environment of what's going on and hot topics at that point. Currently, this is our member list. We have 3 counties, Lee, Sueur, Waseca, and Blue Earth County are all members. And then within our city jurisdictions within those, again, that kind of makes up our 14. We currently Sueur County members, Cleveland, Lee Center, Waterville, Elysian, and so they have all been kind of members for many, many years. And again, they're all kind of in the same situations where other jurisdictions and yourself would be, different priorities change. But again, if one city has gone through it, another city has also gone through it. Our organizational chart is our General Assembly, which is our members. We have 2 voting members per jurisdiction. That makes up our General Assembly. And then Operations Committee is made up of our administrative component from those jurisdictions as well. Myself has been appointed to as the executive director, and then we have 1 staff person, Jessica, is our program administrator. She really works directly with and for our jurisdictions. She's everything from temporary city clerk to working on those comp plans, salary surveys, a lot of different needs that you may inquire that she's there to help. We also have a few other staff that are on board with HR in our human resources department that really help out when needed. If there's interviews that you need assistance with, if you need on-site staffing abilities, we definitely have some resources to be able to pull from kind of on those temporary basis as needed. And then we also have interns that we all want to try to grow our kind of the population of those students that are interested in public sector work. And so we really try to work with MSU to bring on and develop interns that are looking for that public administration component. Our current Council officers, Lance Wetzel is our Leesburg County Commissioner. He is our current president. Dan Evans, our new city administrator for Lee Center, is our vice chair. And we do have a Region 9 representative, and that is Chris Dalton. He is current city manager for New Ulm. He actually also serves on the board for Region 9 as well. So we definitely have some resourcing, and we pull in that knowledge of what's kind of going on in our region. So what are the services that we do provide? Kind of the sky's the limit. Mostly human resource functions, land use planning options, administration, everything from executive level management. There are different training components that we do also provide as well. Some of the key kind of human resource functions, a lot of the times we spend most time helping out with recruitments, and that is kind of managing that, the application process, working with potential candidates, and kind of walking through that start to finish kind of process. Interviewing, being on the interview panel as well. The other kind of main highlights that we do is wage studies. We have quite a few different resources when it comes to different wage studies, where with the city of Mankato works specifically with a contract that does a lot of that, as well as through the league, we can kind of really pull in a lot of those different resources that way. Data practices, consultation, pay equity reporting is also another one where we manage that for different jurisdictions. And this is just some highlights within that. Personnel policies, a lot of handbook policy creations, kind of adjustments, safety and loss. We work pretty closely with MMUA and doing a lot of different components that way with them, directly with them. It'd be performance evaluation creation. We can kind of help through some of those different abilities to create the forms, work through some different processes with the staff. From the land use planning, zoning ordinance creations, comp plan creation, different surveys, just different land use issues that may come up. Jess has been pretty frequent in a lot of different zoning ordinances and spends a lot of time working through that with a lot of our townships also in the area. Administration, we can kind of help out through some budget preps, open meeting law consultation, just kind of the sky's the limit. Again, we adapt to what the needs that your jurisdiction actually needs and is looking for versus here's our limit of what we do. If you ask the question, we can certainly find out what that response is. Trainings, we do offer different planning commission trainings, customer service training for staff, just talking with media, just a lot of different options for different trainings. And if there's something specific that you're looking for, we certainly can develop and find those speakers or present ourselves. So how do members benefit? Well, kind of that enhanced communication. It's working collaboratively with other jurisdictions in the area. Effective and efficient delivery of service to citizens. We want you to be efficient and not have to take time away for staff to keep doing their regular routine, but working definitely on those projects. And then also that flexibility in the service that is needed. So cost-wise, on an annual basis, we do have a flat $4,500 fee, and then it's a 36-cent per capita. That is an annual basis. And all of the services that I've kind of highlighted, that's what's included. If there is some really, really big time-intensive projects that are happening, that's may be a little bit different, but that's really going to be on what the time commitment would be, or the difficulty, whether that's hiring or looking for other resources outside of the COG. But we can certainly manage through those. But 99% of the things that we do are truly covered within that actual flat fee. It is billed on a 6-month basis. And it is actually now with the new census final numbers, it is based off of the 2020 census information based on your jurisdiction. Any questions? I'll kind of keep it brief, but I'll definitely open it up for you guys to ask any questions of either Jess or I.
Anybody at all? Ms. Huber, we really appreciate your presentation as we navigate through a lot of changes here
Mhm.
with our community. It's nice to know there's other resources out
Resources
there
available.
to help us along with that.
Yeah.
And we will certainly give this a lot of consideration as we move forward.
Yeah,
So
please do. And if there's any questions that come up with any of you, we certainly, we've contact information is on there and I can leave our business cards as well. And please feel free to email or call.
if you'd leave some cards, I'd appreciate it.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, at this time, we're going to move on to our consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine and have been made available to the city council at least 2 days in advance of the meeting. These items will be enacted in one motion. There will be a separate discussion of these items there will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from this agenda and considered in normal sequence. We did remove one item off the agenda, but if you'd cover those other items for us, City Administrator Krugel.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Kirby, members of council. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have the city council meeting minutes from our last meeting on February 28th. We have disbursement approvals through March 14th, 2022. Those disbursements total just under $1.2 million. Items of note are our AMI system meter lease, which was $32,000. Our 2010 hospital debt payment, which is a pass-through for $214,000. Our work comp premium payment, which was $126,000, and our MMPA purchase power bill, which was for $580,000. Next, we have our 2022 Arbor Day Declaration. I believe that is for April 28th, 2022 will be Arbor Day in the city of Sueur. We do this for our Tree City USA certification, which I believe we're on year 25, 26, something like that we've been a certified Tree City USA. We have one farm lease approval for the land just south of the airport. So annually we have land that we can lease out for ag purposes, and we do that through these farm leases. We have our 2022 street maintenance, accepting the bids and awarding contracts for that project. So that's for the work that will be completed this summer. Item F, the CASA 36, so the South Main project, improvement projects, looking to award that bid. This is a joint project with the county. Bids came in slightly under what the engineer's estimate was. So that's a good thing. We have the Sueur Farmers Market road closure request. So that's to close a portion of 2nd Street on Saturdays in the morning for a farmers market. We have the MMPA alternate director representative. So that's appointing Public Services Director Richard Kuchera as the alternate. I'm currently that alternate right now, and will serve through the end of my time here in Sueur. Item I, the personnel actions, that has been removed and will be added to the end of the regular agenda. Item J is to reestablish the precinct and polling place for the redistricting of Congressional District 1. That will be effective for the primary and the general election in 2022, effective 1/1 of 2023. We have a surplus property declaration following our surplus property procedures. And then we have this last item is Small Cities Development Program funds. This is related to a program the city offered in 2018, 2019. With that program, anybody who participated in that had to sign an agreement with, I think it was Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation was facilitating this. And if they ended up selling their house within the time period, and I believe it was 7 years, they then had to pay back that grant money. And they paid that grant money back to the program. Program then awarded that money back to the city of Sueur. This action would then move that money, which is $25,000, from the city funds to the EDA funds, and the EDA would then use that in their revolving loan fund. So using some of those funds to kind of reinvest in the community in the future. So those are the items on consent. I'll entertain any questions.
Anybody have any questions at all on the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Councilmember Swanberg.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to public comment. Public comment provides an opportunity for the public to address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Persons wishing to make a comment must sign up in advance of the meeting on the sheet that is provided to identify themselves and provide their name and address. At this time, do we have anybody who'd like to address the council? No? Very good. Moving on to our regular agenda then. That'll be item 7A, city administrator search process. As everybody knows, we have our city administrator moving on, and it's going to leave a vacancy there. And at this time, we're actively working on how the process is going to move as we move forward. So do you want to explain that to us, City Administrator Krugel?
I can, but I believe our city clerk is moving up here to kind of take over. This was talked about at the personnel and budget, and this is just looking for city council approval to approve of the process that's been identified by the personnel and budget. After this item are a couple other items related to it, one being establishing an ad hoc committee for the search, and then also appointing an interim administrator. So I will turn it over to the HR director, Stacy Lawrence.
Ms. Lawrence, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Kirby and members of council. So as Jasper mentioned, we have a couple of items this evening. We're going to start with the city administrator search timeline. So Personnel and Budget Committee met on Monday, March 7th to review some of these items. And this was the proposed timeline. So I'm just going to go through them. And then at the end, I'll stand for any questions or comments you guys might have. So March 14th, here we are today. The requested items are to approve the process for the city administrator search, establish an ad hoc city administrator search committee. You've seen that in your agenda packet as well. And then appoint an interim city administrator. That is an agenda item as well. So March 15th to April 4th, so that would be starting tomorrow, would be posting the city administrator position. April 5th through the 7th, the ad hoc committee will review applications, score those applications, which I would have scoring sheets available, and make a recommendation to interview finalists, and they would bring that forward at the April 11th regular city council meeting. We've tentatively put in April 11th through the 15th for the ad hoc committee to interview semifinalists. This can be flexible based on availability of this committee and also any finalist schedules. On April 15th, the ad hoc committee would designate finalist recommendations for the city council. April 18th, there would be a special city council meeting to consider recommended finalists. April 25th through the 29th, there would be finalist interviews. And on April 29th, potentially the city council could select a candidate. May 2nd through the 6th would be contract negotiations. This would be something handled by the ad hoc committee. And they would negotiate with the finalist. And May 9th, we've slated for contract approval. So I went over that pretty quickly. Does anybody have any questions for myself or City Administrator Krugel?
If I may,
Please.
I think there's this, we went through this at personnel and budget. I just want to make sure it's clear. So the April 5th through 7th, there actually wouldn't be a recommendation at the April 11th council meeting. What that part was taken out at the personnel and budget committee meeting because the ad hoc committee would then interview the semifinalists before there'd be a recommendation. So I just looked back at the notes, it was unclear. So I just want to make sure that it's clear that that would be the process. So the ad hoc committee would review the applications, score the applications, and then they would select a series of semifinalists that they would then interview on that April 11th through the 15th.
Mayor Kirby,
Yes, sir.
what obligation, if any, do we have to post this position?
Legally, I don't think there's anything, is there? You want to address that?
Yeah, legally, there's nothing. It's just, it's about what city council feels comfortable with.
Personnel and budget had an appetite for transparency. They want to post this and see, what might come of it. And then we thought it would be best if this was all handled internally. We're not going to have another resource. We're not going to pay another resource to do this search for us. We'll do this on our own. So any other questions? Not, is there action required with this?
Yes, what we're looking for is just a motion to affirm that this is the preferred process by the city council. And if that's the case, this position would then be posted tomorrow and we would follow this process and establish an ad hoc committee, which is the next agenda item.
Okay. With that said, do we have a motion to affirm this process and proceed forward with this?
So moved.
Mr. Sullivan?
Mr. Mayor, I'd second it, making a note that the modification of the April 5 through 7 on the printed agenda, on the information received, has been modified to delete the recommendation for 11 April.
Thank you, Councilmember Krogman. With that said, I will we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
We have one opposition. Were you and I?
Yeah.
Okay, one opposition, the rest are affirmative. Motion has it. Moving on. Item number 7B, City Administrator Search Ad Hoc Committee. Ms. Lawrence, are you gonna make everybody familiar with this process?
Yes, right.
Thank you.
This one's pretty straightforward as well. Personnel and Budget Committee, again, met on March 7th. This was something that was discussed to create an ad hoc committee for the city administrator search process. The recommendation here is to appoint Mayor Kirby, Councilmember Krogman, and Councilmember Sullivan as members of the City Administrator Search Ad Hoc Committee, with additional staff sitting in as well, which would be myself and Public Services Director Rich Kuchera.
Thank you. So that would include 3 council members and a couple of staff members.
Correct.
Yes.
And I'll just kind of talk a little bit about like the legal aspects of this, right? We follow open meeting law. Creating an ad hoc committee will allow that group to look at resumes that are private data in not a public meeting setting. So there's a reason why there's an ad hoc committee, not the personnel and budget or something else. And there's a reason why there's 3 individuals on there, not 4. If there'd be 4, then we would have a quorum of city council members, and you could arguably have to notice that meeting. So just points of clarity.
Would that be a problem if we only have 6 city council members at the time?
It's a good question.
Yeah, so even if we have 6 council members, quorum is still 4.
Thank you. Good question. So with that said, I will entertain any motions to approve as we move forward the ad hoc committee consisting of myself, Sean Kirby, Councilmember Noel Krogman, Councilmember Marvin Sullivan, and 2 staff members, Richard Kuchera and Ms. Stacy Lawrence.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Krogman.
Who
Was it? Oh, Schleter. Thank you, Councilmember Schleter. Looking for a second. Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. Any other discussion, concerns, comments? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on. Item number 7C, Interim City Administrator Appointment. Who's going to cover this? Is Ms.
Jasper,
Lawrence?
me, you.
Okay.
Jasper, can you flip to the next slide? There's not a lot on that one. Again, so back to Personnel and Budget Committee met on March 7th. It was discussed we need to appoint an interim city administrator in Jasper's absence. We discussed those dates. Jasper's official last day here will be April 8th. So this recommendation is to appoint current Finance Director Joe Roby as the interim city administrator effective April 9th, 2022.
Thank you. Mr. Roby's been acting as our finance director for the last year and a couple months. He's got a extremely good grip on how the finances work with the city, and the Personnel and Budget Committee thought he would be the right person to navigate us through this process. Any questions, concerns? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Mr.
Second.
Sullivan. Thank you, Mr. Swanberg. Any other concerns, comments? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7D, consider declaring city council seat vacant. You want to brief us on that, Mr. Krugel?
Yes, I can. And there's some news to report. I've recently received a letter of resignation from council member Losey effective immediately. So this kind of morphs into accepting that resignation, that letter of resignation from council member Losey. And then I would recommend having personnel and budget determine the process for filling that vacancy. Now, because there's over 2 years left on that term, this will be required to be on the general election, the ballot in November. City council will have the ability to potentially appoint somebody between now and December 31st of 2022. After that, then that person who is elected on the general election will then take over 1/1 of 2023. So right now, I think the appropriate action would be to accept that letter of resignation. The seat would then become vacant, and then have personnel and budget look at it potentially next week to recommend a process as far as filling that position in the interim between now and the end of the year.
Mr. City Administrator, do we not officially have to also not just accept the resignation, but declare the seat vacant?
You could. I think you could.
Okay. This will be one motion. The motion that I'm asking for is to accept Mr. Councilmember Losey's resignation and also declare his seat vacant.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Swanberg. Thank you, Councilmember Krogman. Got first and seconded. Any discussion, concerns, questions, comments? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it.
I don't have a slide for this next one since it was pulled off, so we'll just leave this up. But it'll be the series of the 4 personnel and or personnel action items.
Okay, if you want to walk us through that.
I can. So if you have your packets handy, it might be. I'll just go through them all. The first 2 are part-time positions, and the last 2 are the ones that I think were pulled, or the reason it was pulled. So the first personnel item is hiring Dylan Schomburg, I believe. If I pronounced his name incorrectly, I apologize. As the building and grounds maintenance laborer in a part-time capacity. So that's the first item. The second is a part-time officer, and this one, again, I will probably not do well with the name. Tarek Kikik.
Sounds good.
Yep. So that's a part-time officer hire. The third one is the community development director position. And the recommendation for this one is Moira Hounstein as the community development director. I can go over, if there's specific questions, I can definitely field those. But in general, Ms. Hounstein has over 25 years of experience in the field of community development and architecture. She's currently the division director of planning and building for Washoe County, Nevada. Her division has about the same amount, pretty much identical, 38 employees. So she oversees 38 employees and has a budget of $4 million. That wasn't included in the packet, but she's also a certified planner in AICP. She's a licensed architect in Nevada. She's a National Council of Architectural Registration Board member, NCARB, and also LEED certified. So leadership and environment, or energy and environmental design certification. Very experienced, very well qualified for our position. She's senior in her career. That's why you see the salary placed where it is. It's competitive for our region. It's I think a little bit under what she gets paid right now, currently in her current position. She is moving to Minnesota in the beginning of June. She can start at the end of June. So Based on that past experience, the letter of offer letter was extended to Ms. Hounstein, and they were looking for potential approval tonight. So I will entertain any questions.
It's not a question, I guess. It's more of a statement. When we talked about the salary, we were in that mid 120s range. And when you put in the stipend for a vehicle and a cell phone, that gets you up to 132 before you even get started. And the performance pay is another potential 5,000 to 7,000. At a time when we continue to raise taxes, I just think we got to be really mindful of what we're paying people. My question is, can we afford it in the budget? I guess that is a question.
Yeah, and it's a great question. And based on the previous community development director and what we planned in our budget, this is within that range. So short answer is yes, we can afford it. We budgeted for it. It is on the top end of that grade. It's not quite to the top. As far as the vehicle stipend and the cell phone stipend, that's all directors have received that in lieu of keeping track of mileage. They do have the option to have a city issued cell phone as well. So we give the directors, managers a choice if they would like to keep their own cell phone, receive a stipend, or receive a city issued cell phone. It's about a wash as far as the city goes with cost. So the $100 stipend doesn't quite cover a personal plan, but it covers enough of it where maybe it's considered beneficial to only have to carry around one cell phone. So a little history about that. And then the PTO, based on the experience that Ms. Hounstein has, felt that was an appropriate range to put it in. There is one more tier above that 140 or 248 hours per year, and that's 264 hours per year, and you get that once you hit year 15.
Any other questions, comments?
On this subject?
Yes.
With Dave here, if it fits in our budget and I realize that I guess that's what we have to do. But as long as we're in the budget of what we're doing, and my concerns is the tax stuff too. So.
Thank you.
And one thing I will add is that this position is funded 50% with general fund levy, and then the EDA pays the other 50%. So really only taxes pay for half of, or general levy taxes pay for half of this. The EDA, which has a fund balance, they pay for the other half. So maybe that may have been a good thing to point out in the memo, but that is consideration. But it is. So about 50% of this total compensation package is covered by the general fund levy.
Okay.
That helps a little.
This leads me to segue to the next one. I brought out the police officer, or police chief, I should say. My concern of the police chief is his salary is going to be bumped up to $112,500, which I think is, to me, on a personal level, quite low for a police chief. When we're just got done paying for a community director and a lot more. And I was just wondering two questions. I don't know if it's a question or not, but so when we negotiated the contract with the police department, we just did approved last meeting.
Correct.
Is that part of the police chief is part of that?
He's not part of that union.
Union deal?
He's part of management or administration, but if you want to touch on that a little.
Yeah, so he's not part of it, but what we ran into when we adopted that the contract was the sergeant in particular, was bumping into that police chief in their pay. So looking regionally, it's a competitive wage. It's a very difficult job, no doubt. So, but then there is potential, with, you mentioned performance pay, our performance pay system, if that police chief is performing, they could see some substantial increases over the next few years. But competitively speaking in the region, we're right in the market for police chiefs. But I get what you're saying. It's where that market falls, I would say.
It's a strange comparison.
Real bad comparison.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I agree. It is very interesting, maybe even a strange comparison. I would point out that the person for economic development, community development. Also, in theory, and must be really, someone who produces income for our city. These are people that are needed to be able to do the things that get things done, bringing industry, bringing people into the community, and frankly, getting grants. If you look at the mall, if we didn't have somebody working with deed, we would not have been able to accomplish what we did. So it's a critical position. It's very expensive. And I think we need to look at that in the long run. But for now, I think this is clearly the direction that we need to be going. So.
And if I may, there's no guarantees, right? The market could change with grants and things like that, but we're always trying to leverage those. You know, we had Ms. DiMaggio on staff for just about maybe a little over 4 years. And in that time, you know, the big grant, you know, $200 or $853,000, you know, was brought into the community. That more than paid for her time here. So ideally that happens again and again and again. There's opportunities right now, but you can't guarantee a grant. So that's a very good point. We're always looking at those opportunities, and having somebody focus on those will hopefully bring in outside money to the community.
I think it's important to us to really sing those praises when they happen, and to let the community know how valuable those positions are and what they can potentially mean. So I'm glad you brought that up there, Councilman Krogman. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Swanberg, I think we also need to have a complete expectation that the person in that position will produce those kind of results. And if they don't, they're no longer here.
Agree.
Mhm.
And I can just add, you know, my conversations with Ms. Hounstein, which I've had multiple teams meetings and things of that's her intention. She's gonna go after those things as hard as she can. So I'm very optimistic that'll be the case.
Mr. Mayor, what is our procedure here?
Well, I was just going to ask everybody that. Do we want to vote in one motion with the part-time building and grounds and with the part-time police officer? Those two first? How does that sound? Do I have a motion? That'd be our part-time building and grounds.
I'm comfortable taking all four of them together.
Is everybody comfortable with all four?
Yeah.
Okay. Part-time building and grounds. Also with the new hire of the part-time police officer.
I'm assuming both those are hourly wage people, the part-timers?
That is correct.
Yep.
Would also include the hiring of our community development director and the adjustment with our police chief salary. Those 4 items. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Swanberg.
And I'll second it.
Thank you, Councilmember Huntington. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Moving on to comments and reports, any items of appreciation. Council members, at this time, this is your platform. This is your opportunity to share any community events you wish to share, starting with Councilmember Huntington.
Well, last week we had an MRVT meeting, but I'm going to allow my chairman to tell us about the meeting. And other than that, I have nothing else.
Very good. Moving on to Councilmember Krogman.
Yes, just a reminder to the community, all council members, everyone present. On March 26th, we will have the Future of the City Forum at 10:30 at the high school. Very important event for this community as we look at our comprehensive plan, look at where we've been and where we can go. So it's really important that people attend and participate in this community event. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Schluter.
I did have a Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities Legislative Action Day at the Capitol. It was actually mostly a recap of events over the past year, so there's nothing significant to report here, but I would like to thank Representative Farr for the half an hour I got to sit down and meet with him at the Capitol, and also for the tour of the House chambers. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Sullivan.
As Councilmember Huntington alluded to, we had a transit meeting last week. Nothing major to note there other than, ridership's coming back. So we're back to close to where we were in 2019. So that's a good thing.
Thank you. Councilmember Swanberg.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Chief Tiki for bringing his force in today. That was a really good idea and glad that he did that.
Thank you. Excellent. I have nothing to share tonight other than to wish our interim city administrator, Joe Roby, all our best. We have all the confidence in the world with you. You'll do a fine job navigating us through things as we move forward. City Administrator Krugel.
Yes, I've just two brief items. You'll likely have received your 2023 valuations in the mail for your house. Take a good look at those so you understand what's happening with your values as those likely increased. The word from the county that we received is don't be surprised if you have a 25 to 30% increase in the value of your house this year or for 2023. Look at that letter, and if you would like to dispute or have a conversation with that, the date and time, which I don't know off the top of my head, is on the letter. You can go to the county commissioners and you can dispute your valuation. That valuation is explicitly tied to your tax bill that you pay for city, county, and the school district. So just make sure you look at that. I know those recently went out. And then the last thing is we have our city council retreat on the 22nd, so Tuesday. That starts at 3 o'clock. Hopefully be wrapped up by 9, and we'll be going over a bunch of different items with all of the departments, looking at our goals that are on our walls, and then looking at trying to form new goals for 2022, 2023. So that's all I have.
And that retreat's here.
That retreat is here in the council chambers, correct?
Thank you. With that said, I will entertain any motions to close this meeting. Thank you, Councilmember Swanberg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Fire station.
Where are you? Yeah, I was at the fire station.
You're messing with tradition.